So today and ongoing, this is going to be my turn to do a bit of an experiment. Now, I love making homemade baked beans. Bacon and beans, pork and beans, whatever you want to call it. Sometimes molasses, sometimes maple syrup. But I've always had to buy my beans. And these are the exact beans that I buy all the time to make my baked beans. So I figured we're going to try and grow them. So I've just purchased this pack. I don't know if they actually have an expiry date on them to know that they're fresh. You can never really know with store-bought beans, so that's where I'm curious to see how my baked beans turn out with homegrown beans. But we've never grown an actual navy bean or something that is ideal for baked beans. So, don't really know how to plant them, haven't really Googled it. We're just going to wing it and try, and it's a fun experiment. So, here we go. We're going to work in our usual Hickorycroft fashion, and we're going to crowd them and make the most of space. Chris has just finished mulching our potatoes either side of our bean area, and I've kind of made furrows, troughs, what do you want to call that? Anyways, areas for the beans to go. So I'm going to do 2 rows side by side in each of these little troughs, planted fairly close together and about 4 inches apart for the rows, giving them room to expand out on the other sides. We'll see how it goes. We plant our Black Valentine beans the same way and it works great. So that's what we're going with. All right, so there are our 4 rows all planted. We did roughly 2-inch spacing, give or take a little bit. I think it'll be interesting to see how these do. Chris and I were just saying we have no concept of just how prolific these will be, how many beans we actually needed to plant even. So this is our 2 rows. I didn't count, but it's probably 400 beans. It's probably about 100 beans per row.
It's quite a few.
Yeah.
So we'll see how they
come
up.
So it'll be interesting to see. We're going to kind of document through this video here. We're going to give the review on whether it works. But we're going to get these watered. We're going to trickle some water over top of them here first, cover them up, and wait for them to grow. So the navy bean experiment is going very, very well. You can see here Chris is busy picking away. They're not all ready to come off the vine, but there is quite a few that are dry, and we're sort of getting to mid-October where, you know, it's hit and miss whether it will stay dry enough for these to be picked. And we don't want to lose what there is, so we're starting to harvest. I'm very curious. These were quite prolific. Like I say, store-bought seeds that we tried to plant. I'm a big fan of baked beans, so we're trying to find that perfect bean to grow for baked beans.
As we're harvesting these, we were just kind of talking, and you can kind of see here, I don't know if I would classify these exactly as a pole bean, but I wouldn't say they're a true bush bean either, because as you can see, they basically used all this support from the weeds to gain height, and they wrapped around it, which is something that a lot of the bush beans don't do. And I think that's probably part of the success of this relative productivity here. So very curious next year. We'll probably give these a trellis, maybe not a high trellis, but a trellis, and see what they do, because I think with a little less competition they'd be even more productive than they were this year.
So there's our first round of harvesting from these. There's probably not quite the same amount again, but pretty darn close. So very, very pleased with the neglect that this patch had. The fact that only half of it grew, which we're kind of going to equate to store-bought seeds. You don't know how old they are. Plus, like I said, it was very, very neglected. We never watered this. The whole year we haven't watered these beans. So really, very, very happy with this. This is going to be a great, great start for our huge patch for next year. Well, guys, we are in the garden beside the barn where I started my navy bean experiment. Now, we harvested quite a few last weekend, and we were going to let the ones sit on the vine until the rest of them had hardened off, or the pods had gone hard. Basically, what the situation is we have pouring rain all this weekend coming up. So starts tonight, going right through till Monday. So I run the risk of losing what's left on these vines, because after that we're cold. So I am going to take a look. We're going to harvest what's left, and that will be kind of the end of the project. So I'm going to show you what's left on these vines. We're going to pick it, take it back to the house, and we're going to kind of see what we got from these navy beans. But all in all, I'd have to say very, very impressed, considering the neglect these plants had they've really produced well. So definitely going to be in the garden again next year. Probably going to save all these seeds and use them for next year's seed. That's the one thing that I would say about getting or using seed that you've got, or beans or that sort of stuff from the grocery store, is you don't actually know how old they are. So we got 50% growth germination rate, but I'm not sure whether we will, well, I'm hoping we will see better next year using our own seeds. But let's take a look. So you can see they actually have dried off not too bad. There's a few that are still a bit green, so it is what it is. You can see the majority of them have dried off. So we're going to pick the rest of these and add them to our pot from the other day and see how we did. And right here is what will happen if you're not on the ball. You can see there it's popped open and on the ground. Now luckily I'm out here quick enough that it's not going to be too detrimental. It's only one seed, but waiting in the wings are chickens. And over there, chickens. Just waiting to get in here. But I am going to take that one and we'll put it in. It still counts. I just lost one bean. Well, that looks like it off the vines. There's still a fair number of ones that aren't ready, so I am going to leave them, hope for the best. We're still going to bring this experiment to a conclusion with what I've got so far, because I'm doubtful that the rest of these are going to ripen enough to be able to harvest for dry beans. But there you have it, the last shot from the garden of these poor neglected beans growing up the weeds. I got just a little bit in the bottom of my bucket. There wasn't too much left on these, so we're going to go inside and kind of take a look at what we got. All right, it is moment of truth for the navy bean experiment. We are inside. It's actually almost a month later, and we have finally taken the beans out of their husks or shells. They were definitely really, really dry. One of the nice perks about these, I think, was they were very, very easy to remove from shells. That's definitely a plus, but we'll show you what we got. So all in all, not too bad. We're going to get a weight on these beans here. I've got my thing zeroed. It just kind of, oops. So 263 grams. They actually are, I'm very impressed. They're very uniform, very nice, neat, and tidy. These here are the leftover from the bag that I started with. And the one thing that I would say, actually, theirs are all different sizes too. I was going to comment on the fact that mine are very, some are little, some are bigger, but so are the store-bought ones. So I guess that's just the way it goes. But the big question, I suppose, is, was it worth it? And certainly, most definitely it is. I'm so excited about this. Now, I didn't get enough to actually make beans from, because I want to take all these seeds now, knowing that they're fresh, and put them in for next year. We did plant about 400 beans, and I'm pretty sure we at least doubled, so it'll be interesting to see with a bit more TLC and less neglect what these beans will produce next year. Like we said, going to make sure that they get a trellis or something to grow up, because they certainly did attach to the weeds. Now, the weeds shouldn't have been there, but I suppose they may have helped them in the long run. We'll see. So this is definitely on a take two for next year with a few improvements. And we'll kind of keep you posted as we go along. But I'm very curious to see whether we get some better germination rates with these fresh beans rather than using store-bought for next year. But stay tuned, because I'm going to take the rest of these store-bought beans and do a baked bean recipe just for you.